In chapter 2271, tensions escalate between Mrs. Brown and Chelsea as they discuss financial matters outside the restaurant. Mrs. Brown confronts her daughter, demanding the $5,000 that Liberty had returned as a gift. Chelsea, feigning innocence, claims financial hardship due to her struggling building material store and emphasizes her role in saving her brother Hank's life during an accident. She attempts to justify her need for the money, citing her family's dire situation and unpaid medical expenses incurred during her hospitalization after the accident. She also highlights the lack of support from Jessica, her sister in law, who hasn't contributed to the medical bills. Her plea takes an unexpected turn when she suggests that the money be considered as nutrition expenses due to her role in saving Hank. Mrs. Brown remains unconvinced, accusing Chelsea of ingratitude and dissatisfaction despite the family's prior assistance. She points out that Hank's hospitalization depleted the family's savings, making the $5,000 a significant contribution. Mrs. Brown questions Chelsea's claim of financial struggle, hinting that she is aware of the savings Chelsea and her husband have accumulated from their successful building materials business. Mrs. Brown adamantly refuses Chelsea's request, emphasizing that Hank's ongoing medical expenses make this a crucial time to preserve their resources. She reminds Chelsea of Hank's past support, and Chelsea reluctantly hands back the $5,000 in a red envelope, but continues to express her belief that Liberty should bear the financial burden for Sony. Mrs. Brown reacts with frustration, physically pinching Chelsea's face and scolding her for being selfish and ungrateful. She dismisses the idea of seeking help from Liberty, asserting that Liberty owes nothing to the family or Hank. Mrs. Brown defends Liberty's responsibility to raise Sony and suggests that Chelsea should not burden Liberty with financial requests. As the confrontation unfolds, Mrs. Brown criticizes Chelsea's upbringing, attributing her behavior to parental shortcomings. Chelsea, somewhat remorseful, acknowledges her opportunistic tendencies but defends her actions during Hank's crisis. Despite returning the money, Chelsea expresses envy towards Liberty's successful restaurant business and dreams of opening her own thriving restaurant. The chapter concludes with Mrs. Brown admonishing Chelsea to improve her cooking skills before venturing into the restaurant business. She disapproves of Chelsea's tendency to rely on the Brown family and urges her to refrain from frequenting Liberty's restaurant.